morning, everybody, and welcome to the Black Rock Riverside Alliance Conservation Conversations. My guest this morning is Jay Burney, and this conversation is brought to you by a gift from the Paul and Helen Ellis Charitable Trust. Jay, good morning. Good to see you.
Hey, good morning.
Good to see you. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself? I know you have quite the reputation in Buffalo.
Well, sure. My current full-time job is I'm the Special Projects Director of the Pollinator Conservation Association, which is a group dedicated to creating pollinator conservation through the eyes of the pollinators in the Great Lakes and especially in the Niagara Greenway area and its watersheds. I do a lot of other things. I'm the American chair of the Birds on Niagara, which is a festival that we're holding in the winter in February around Valentine's Day.
We love that event.
Well, you guys are great partners in that, and we're celebrating winter birds. We have an abundance of birds here, and this is a globally significant, important bird area, and they're here in the winter, and we're glad to get people outside to see this great ornithological event. Plus, we hold it on Valentine's Day weekend, which is a perfect match because many of the birds are in breeding plumage and breeding activity, and so it's a very romantic kind of natural go outside and enjoy our nature. Sure. I do a lot of other things. I work with the Outer Harbor Coalition, the Western New York Environmental Alliance. I'm a long-time activist and naturalist and conservationist, and we're just trying to do projects and lift everyone's boats around conservation in our region.
And we're so excited about all of the projects that are going on in Buffalo. There's a ton of them, and it's going to be really hard to talk about everything in a confined space. But this morning we wanted to talk about resiliency zones because you know more about that than most people. So I thought maybe you could tell us a little bit about what it is as a starter, and then we'll go from there.
Well, sure. Well, resiliency is kind of the modern word for the word in context of sustainability. And resiliency has economic perspectives, it has social perspectives, and it has profound environmental perspectives, just like sustainability. And we're in an area that is a very important area globally. The Niagara River Corridor, the Niagara Greenway, is part of a globally significant, important bird area. And the reason we have that is because we have birds that come here from all over the Western Hemisphere and maybe even all over the globe. We have birds that breed here in the summertime, that winter in the Amazon basin. We have birds that visit us in the wintertime that go back to the Arctic to breed. And so, among other things, the environmental resiliency, the conservation things, if we want to save the Amazon, if we want to help save the Arctic, we have to do things here to help these kinds of populations survive, and they're all endangered. And we also have a Ramsar area, wetlands of international significance because of the fish and other wildlife in the Niagara River Corridor. And so we have an important area, and how do we build it to be more resilient for the future so that future generations can have a quality of life that maybe even better than we have? We can do that. And one of the ideas is just to identify, what are the resiliency areas? We had a bunch of storms starting last Halloween. We have historic high water levels, and these storms and the high water levels really battered our coastlines. The Outer Harbor, we had seiches that overtopped places like the Times Beach Nature Reserve, which I've been chair of for almost 40 years. Terrific damage. How do we build a more resilient community along our shorelines? One other thing I want to say about it is that Governor Cuomo has a Restore Mother Nature Bond Act, which is designed to create resilient areas more or less downstate where hurricanes have battered shorelines. Well, we have it here too. And the governor is starting to listen to the fact that we would like to use some of that $4 billion Bond Act here to help build a more resilient coastline, which includes neighborhoods like Black Rock Riverside.
That was going to be my exact next question. We have the thruway that runs literally across our front door. And I'm wondering how you see the resiliency zones being used in our neighborhoods, because we have a lot of hardscapes and a lot of old industrial traditions right now which are legacy that we're trying to wrestle with.
Well, if you look at it from a conservation perspective, you have shorelines, and you have the Scajaquada Creek, which empties into Lake Erie, which is an incredibly important area for all sorts of wildlife, birds, pollinators, fish. and that's in your neighborhood. And so I know that you're working on programs to build that more resilient in a conservation sense. So that's one thing to look at. Look at your green spaces, maybe even improve your green spaces, create more green spaces, but also when it comes to economy, how can you build a resilient economy? And I think you guys are doing a lot of that by looking at local economies. We have a traditionally extractive economy in Western Europe where investors from out of state take money and don't give a darn about what the impacts are here. So you build a resilient local economy, and along with that comes social justice activities, because we care about our communities. And if we have a local economy and we invest in local concepts, people care about how that money is spent and used, and we can use it for conservation and social justice.
I think so much of what we need to do has to do with education and educating our communities. I think our communities, first and foremost, don't even see themselves as shorelines. And I think we need to start with saying, yes, you know, you have a waterfront community. And then secondly, to get people down there and see some of the magnificent things that we see when we go down birding and we go down fishing. I mean, there's a very small set of the population that actually gets down to this fantastic resource that we have. And I know the Outer Harbor is a big start of that.
You mentioned earlier that the expressway that cuts the community off from the river. I mean, this is a historic community, your community, Black Rock, Riverside. Erie Canal was through there. It was a coastal community. It was a beautiful place that the history is still so abundant here. We have so many historic buildings and neighborhoods, and recognizing that and restoring that history, and maybe even looking at how the thruway impacts that cutoff is something that we have to do here. We have to restore our relationship with nature, and that starts with ending the physical barriers that humans face. The good news is that birds can fly over the thruway, even though it's dangerous for them. Fish can't spawn easily up the creeks because of pollution and other barriers, but we have to open up those barriers to make sure that nature is supportable by the activities that we do here. And if we're looking at a resilient zone, a resilient community, we have to think about how we support nature, as well as how we create a local economy and again, social justice issues.
There's a lot of work being done on the islands out in the Niagara River, and I wonder if there's also some space for some grasslands or some wetlands along the shore that we're not even thinking about. We're not thinking big enough when we think these things.
Well, I know in the Outer Harbor, we're working a lot to create green space out there, and a lot of folks focus on recreation. We think there's potential for wonderful natural conservation nature preserves out there, including grassland areas, including wetland areas, including forested areas. You mentioned the islands in the Niagara River. They've had tremendous damages from not only nature, the last storms that we've had, even in the month of June, did a lot of damage to places like Strawberry Island and Motor Island. DEC is now looking at Grass Island to create a barrier so that recreational boaters who abuse the site don't damage the nature that's there. It's a critical place for birds like purple martins and all sorts of other creatures. And recreational boaters who don't understand it, aren't educated about it, will drive their boats through there. They'll throw bottles. They'll create all sorts of trash. And so right now, Department of Environmental Conservation is coming up with a plan to protect that from boaters. It's very controversial, but educating boaters is really fundamental. That nature is one of the things that drives our economy and drives our future. So if we can protect it and make that a place where people love and come to enjoy for the nature rather than just the weekend partying, it'll do a lot to create a profound, positive, resilient future for all of us.
We're back to the word resilient again, and I love it. One of the things that you and I don't talk about often is the fisheries. But fishing in the Niagara River is, second to none when it really comes to inland waterways. And I think that if people understood that we have to preserve our fish hatcheries, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and the breeding grounds there, that it is a really synergistic kind of relationship.
Well, Grass Island, among other places on the river, is a spawning area for muskellunge. And our fishing industry, although it's a sport fishing industry, is really a gateway to nature. I've worked with a lot of sport fishermen over the years, and just getting people out on the boats and seeing what's out there is such a profound connection. And by the way, it's economic development. We can create sport fishing industry here. We can create a sport fishing industry here that's even bigger and better. In fact, in our winter festival, the February Bird Festival, we've engaged some fishing, what do they call, people that take people out on boats for fishing. We've engaged some of them to actually take people out of the Niagara River in February. And it's taking that industry and moving it into a winter venue, like we're trying to do with all sorts of tourism industries during the Birds of Niagara Festival.
I think we have a huge opportunity to open up this economic development piece to our students and our young in our communities. We talk to them about waterways and we talk to them about green economies and blue economies, but we rarely give them the pathways to the kind of success that you and I both know are possible. I mean, our next, park rangers, our next conservation professionals should be coming from our neighborhoods, and we should stop exporting those people, as you said earlier, and have them come into our areas and really enjoy the communities that they've grown up in.
Well, I mean, this is such a special place on this planet. I mean, it's one of the most special places on the planet. We have more biodiversity here than almost anywhere in North America and almost anywhere on the planet. Our globally significant important bird area and our Ramsar site is comparable to Yellowstone, to the Galapagos, to the Florida Everglades. That's how big this area is in terms of nature. We can bring jobs to people that can help support that, whether it's recreational jobs or conservation jobs or educational jobs. This is ground zero for saving the planet. We're in the Great Lakes. 20% of the world's fresh surface water is here, and it comes through our front yard. And I think that we can become much better stewards. And part of that is getting young people involved and finding careers for them. And yeah, we can do that.
We can do this. Jay, if somebody wanted to get involved, give me some ideas of what they should join, how they should volunteer, what should they look up to find out more about what we're talking about here?
Well, there's a ton of conservation organizations in our area. We're really lucky. Pollinator Conservation Association, we have a website, pollinatorconservationassociation.org. Waterkeeper, Birds of Niagara, birdsofniagara.org.
Sure.
We're always looking for people to help and come up with ideas. We need help fundraising. I mean, we're in a difficult time of the world right now with this pandemic, and so money is short for everyone. Western New York Land Conservancy is a wonderful place to volunteer and to help raise money. And I'm sure you can just look up environmental organizations in Western New York, Southern Ontario. There's so many. Southern Ontario, our partners over there are so important. We have the Birds of Niagara Festival is an international festival for the first time last year. And we're the first international bird festival in North America. We're the only international bird festival in North America. We have great Canada partners, and they're doing the same kind of work over there, conservation planning and trying to save sites like Waverly Woods as we are. There's just so many opportunities. I mean, it's a tough time. It's a tough time of the year, especially because we're all wondering, what can we do? I mean, can we go outside? How do we do it safely? So it's tough, but stick in there. I mean, we can get through this, and we can make great contributions, and we need everyone's help.
And I think I would say that going out into nature is one of the most calming things that you can do in this tough time. I know it is for me. I also wanted to say the Black Rock Riverside Alliance is kind of stepping into this realm as well, and we're going to try to get some nature treks done because, as we've said, people don't go down to the river. They don't even know where Skajaqua is. So I think we're going to take our community out for some walks and some maybe some birding. Jay, we may ask you to come along and help identify some birds with us.
Hey, I'll be happy to do that.
You will.
And I can bring an army with me too of experts that know everything from dragonflies and butterflies to bees to native plants to birds.
Yeah.
It's a great world we have out there, and it's still there.
It is, and it is still there. And growing up, I know I grew up in this community, and I know some secret spots that most people wouldn't, and it might be a blast to just get out there and do that.
Well, I want to go there with you.
Okay. I don't want to keep you too long. Do you have anything else you'd love to say, or anything else that?
No, I just hope that, I know we're going to get through this pandemic. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I know that we're working together now. It's great to be working with you guys, and we got a great future together. And I'm really happy that we're doing this program today and that we're working together on a bunch of different things. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. We are much more educated than we were when we started. So thank you again.